Hi, my name is Molly, and I'm going to discuss my literature review over coercive and invasive procedures in obstetrics today, and how those impact women before, during, and after their delivery. So, in high school, my senior year, I wrote a paper about childbirth, and I remember learning about how home births are illegal in Nebraska, and I thought that was really interesting. And it was also the first time I really learned about episiotomies and their use in labor and delivery. And what I learned then was really fascinating, and I thought that researching more about it would be the same now. It took me a while to come to this topic. I wanted to do something kind of with disparities that women face. First, it was when they're working in healthcare, then it was when they're receiving healthcare, and those two combined with researching the articles led me to this topic. When I began researching, I wanted to learn more about childbirth and some struggles that women face within it, and I wanted to know if there was any other practice that was foreign to me, like the use of, or like the illegality of home births in Nebraska. The first article was written in Pennsylvania, and there were basically three sections to this article. First was anecdotes and stories of physicians coercing women with child welfare threats and some causes of coercion. Second was the legal aspect of the issue that included definitions and guidelines for things such as informed consent and informed refusal. And the third part was recommendations from the author on how to better the issue and lessen the conflicts. So some of the strengths of this article include the plethora of examples that the author gives in the first section. These examples really help the reader understand what physicians are doing and how serious and detrimental some of these threats become. Another strength includes the definitions within the second section. The author really uses simple definitions that really help clear up confusing or difficult concepts for readers, especially if they don't know much about law. And that then helps the readers further understand the implication of the coercion and why it is unacceptable. And a final strength is the inclusion of recommendations for change at the end of the paper. One weakness of the article is the exclusion of other research titles. For example, the author states many times, like some studies suggest, or something vague like that, and doesn't give a specific title. And the inclusion of this specific detail would have elevated the essay and taken its credibility to the next level. The second article was written in Brazil, and it was conducted for approximately 3 years, and it looked at why episiotomies were used, what population they were used for most frequently, and variables that may have impacted the results. After the data was collected and evaluated, it was found that 19.7% of women in the study received an episiotomy, and the frequency of episiotomies performed was stated to be much higher than the recommended rate set forth by the World Health Organization, or the WHO, although an exact or acceptable range for episiotomy frequency was not specified within the article. So a strength of this article is the conclusion that there is an excess use of episiotomies, because this was also found in the third article. This overlapping shows the incidence of excess episiotomy use is not confined to one part of the world, so it is an international issue. One weakness of this article is the country of origin, which is Brazil. There is no evidence that the findings would be the same within the US, and the article does not ever reference the US. So more information and research is needed to decisively state either that the United States is similar to or very opposite of Brazil. Another weakness is the lack of information on the acceptable frequency of episiotomies that may be performed that was set by the WHO. Without it, the reader is left wondering what exactly an acceptable rate is. The third article was written in Turkey, and it focuses on the use of episiotomies and the physical and emotional consequences of perineal pain resulting from them. And these consequences are both listed as short-term and long-term. Some short-term consequences include the prevention of infant care and pain and discomfort associated with everyday things such as sitting and walking. And long-term consequences include depression, maternal anxiety, anger, fatigue, and communication problems. And the study concluded that women experience more postpartum perineal pain for longer periods of time when they underwent an episiotomy, and perineal pain from women with an intact perineum or tears that occurred naturally was more severe at first after delivery, but it lasted for a much shorter duration. Strengths of this article include the inclusion of short and long-term consequences of perineal pain, and it demonstrates that there are more consequences of invasive procedures than just pain and bleeding. And many of the consequences are emotional, such as depression and anxiety, and they affect many daily activities. Another strength is the findings are again similar to those found in the second article from Rizal, and this is again that there's an excess amount of episiotomies performed. And a similar finding again connects the countries and makes it an international issue. One weakness of this article is again the country of origin, which is Turkey. The article does not ever reference or include the United States, and so there's no evidence that it correlates. The study correlates. So further research would be needed. So because the articles about episiotomies were written outside of the United States, there is not sufficient evidence of their use or prevalence here. And there's also not a lot of research on the cause of episiotomy use. On the contrary, the article, the first one about birth conflicts, only listed conflicts experienced within the US, and no conflicts outside of the United States were mentioned. After reading these articles and analyzing them, it is evident that more research is needed relating to the use of episiotomies, specifically their occurrence and the reason for their performance. And research is also needed on birth conflicts within other countries, since it's probable that child welfare threats are not the only conflict women in the world face when it comes to their children. This concludes the literature review for invasive procedures and coercion during delivery and postpartum. Thank you for listening.